Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing a quick picks video on the UFC 298 card. Looks like a really good card, to be honest. Kinda wish they saved a couple of these fights at the top for UFC 300, but it's gonna be a very fun card to watch, especially if all these main card fights actually happen and no one misses weight or pulls out. So anyway, we are starting off at the first fight of the night, and that'll be Illia versus Miranda Maverick. Most people don't give a fuck about this fight, let's be honest. It's very lackluster fighters, to say the least. We have Miranda Maverick at 12-5, and Illia at 13-8. Jeez, I guess we'll go with Andrea, my bad, Lee. But, yeah, nothing to write home about. Let's go by decision. After all, it's a WMMA fight. Not going to be super fun. Next up, this will be a much more entertaining scrap. We get to see Val Woodburn fight again after that Bo Nickel fight, which, yeah, that was a tough predicament for Val. Came in on short notice against arguably the most exciting prospect right now in Bo Nickel. Did not look good at all. Did not look like he was an undefeated fighter. Looks like he was a can, but I've seen a few of his other fights that wasn't Bo Nickel, and he looks like a decent prospect. He has good power in his hands, decent striking, and he can grapple a little bit, but tough to say how he'll perform in the bright lights of the UFC. He's fighting Oban Elliott, my bad, the Welsh gangster. Never really heard of this guy, but his Tapology picture looks like he got fucking beat up on before getting that win. So we'll go with Elliott on this one. At least he got a win after a tough fight. Val, on the other hand, he looks fresh as a daisy. So we'll go Elliott by knockout in the first round. Val Woodburn's chin is very suspect at the moment. Next up, we have a much more equal fight. We have Josh Quinlan versus Danny Barlow. Danny Barlow is 7-0, and Josh Quinlan is 6-1 with one draw. Yeah, this is whoever shows up better on the night, but I'm going to go with Danny Barlow. He has a perfect record so far, fighting out of Tennessee. But, yeah, not a whole lot to say about these guys. There's not a whole lot of fights for them in the UFC, but hopefully we learned something about each guy this weekend. So I got Barlow by knockout in the third round. Next up, we have Min Zhang versus Brandson Ribeiro. We have Zhang with a 16-6 record, and Ribeiro with a 15-5 record. So neither record is great, but they both have a good amount of fights on their record. I don't know who to pick on this one. I'm not super familiar with either guy, but I'll go with Zhang. He has a few knockouts on his record, so we'll go Zhang by TKO in the third round. I don't think it'll be a quick fight, but I think it'll be a decent fight. Next up, we have Rinya Nakamura versus Carlos Vera. we'll go with Carlos Vera. He is from Ecuador, which I think that'll give him the extra pep in his step. As we saw in Chito Vera, they just tend to be tough guys over there. Nothing against Japanese fighters. You guys are pretty tough as well, but I'm going to roll with Ecuador on this one by decision. It's 135 pounds. Next up, we got Marcos de Lima versus Justin Tafa. I'm going to go with de Lima on this one. He's the underdog by quite a bit. Actually, no, I'm going to change my pick. I'll pick Justin Tafa. He has a win, a draw, and 2 more wins in his last 4 performances. De Lima lost his last fight by TKO. Flying knee into ground strikes, which is not good. So, we'll go with Justin Badman Tafa by knockout in the first. I think it'll be a quick and easy night for Justin Tafa. Next up, pretty easy pick, Mackenzie Dern. Don't gotta explain why. Moving on. We have Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. I'm going to go with Kopylov on this one. Both guys have won their last 4 fights out of the last 5. Both guys look pretty decent as far as technique goes. But I think Roman Kopylov's striking is a little bit better than Anthony Hernandez. Both guys are tough. Both guys are willing to scrap, and I think it'll be Kopylov by decision. Next up, we got the 2 shortest motherfuckers in the UFC right now. We got Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. I'm going to go with Merab on this one. I think he'll just do what he did with Petr Yan and shoot 105 fucking takedowns and only get about 5 of those. But it won't give them much time or space to really do much of anything. And Henry's offensive wrestling is not the greatest, especially if he's fighting a grappler. We saw that in the Aljo fight. So I'll go Merab by decision. Next up, we have Geoff Neal versus Ian Machado Gary. I'm going to go with Geoff Neal on this one. Doesn't do anything fantastic, but he is tough, and he is willing to chase the finish. Ian Machado Gary tends to look at his work after landing a clean shot and not really chasing the finish quite as much. Plus, he's hasn't been handling the pressure very well of the internet roasting him for the cuck stuff, and everybody knows that drama. I'm not about to rehash all that. So we'll go Neal by knockout in the 2nd round. Next up, we got Robert the Reaper Whittaker versus Paulo the Eraser Costa. This fight's going to be a banger, especially if Paulo shows up and actually looks like he wants to be there. I'm going to get Robert Whittaker on this one. I think he is much more skilled than Paulo Costa and can put on much more of a pace, and putting the kicks behind his punches is going to cause some problems for Paulo. The only question is, does Whittaker hit hard enough to make Paulo go on the back foot and control the fight that way, or is Paulo going to bite down on his mouthpiece and try to trade with Whittaker? Because Whittaker does have a sus chin, and that's really Paulo's only way to victory, in my opinion. So we got Whittaker by knockout in the 3rd round. And the fight everybody is looking forward to. Alexander Volkanovski versus Illia Topuria. I'm picking Volk on this one. I think Volk's going to win a decision, but I think he is going to humble Illia pretty bad. I think Volk is going to show up with another chip on his shoulder, especially with the internet, at least at the beginning, saying how he's going to get knocked out, he's going to lose this fight. The Alexander the Great reign will be over, but I think that just fires Alex up and is going to make him train much harder. And Ilya seems to be drinking a little too much of his own Kool-Aid, to be honest. Everybody's seen the shit he's been posting, saying that he's the new champion and all that stuff. I mean, it's cute, but you gotta hold off on that until you at least become champ. Then you can start doing all this shit talk, but yeah, those are my picks for the fight. What are your guys' thoughts and opinions on this? Do you think the fight card will be underperforming, or do you think it'll overperform? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments, and I hope you guys have a great time watching the fights on Saturday.